Okay. Hello.
Hey.
1 second. I will just need to move these windows around. So we're gonna have a Twitter. Is Twitter like not working for like last fucking several days at this point?
Yeah, Elon Musk basically went full-time back to his companies and they all stopped working properly.
It's probably more productive than taking care of Twitter, to be fair, but okay, I can see both chats.
Yeah, Elon Musk basically went full-time back to his companies. Yeah, robotic. 1 second.
Is that
Test.
okay? Let me know if you can hear us. Hopefully you can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Just 1 second.
Hello. If you guys can, okay. We are in another
No, we good.
set of technical issues, it seems, but they should be fixed in a moment. Hopefully, at least.
Can you hear me?
Hopefully, at least. I can hear myself on a stream, but I cannot hear you. Nope. No one in the chat is also communicating to tell me if they can hear me or not. So that's unfortunate. Nice. Okay, so I can be heard, but we cannot hear another.
Yeah, not even now?
So just wait a few seconds. Yeah, okay, yeah. It seems like my voice is fine, but it's not working. Someone on the YouTube said we can hear both.
How about now? Hello.
I'm not sure about that, though.
Can somebody hear me? Runner is okay, nice. I mean, then we got bamboozled. Can you hear me, Adam?
I can hear you. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now. I think it's
Fine, no, thanks,
good.
fuck. As always. Okay, let's slowly get into it.
Okay.
Let's share the usual
nice.
links.
We are
and
so
we can
back.
get into it. It's as
okay,
always my fault. Don't even bother.
1 second. I'm just going to
let's just share the links. The usual.
The stuff, and then we are going to get into things. Yeah, so there wouldn't be a stream without actual issues, it seems. Okay, so everything is shared. We can talk about the, I don't know, the 9-figure position guy who is being like a most topic of last few weeks. Anyway,
Main character.
hi guys. Thank you for tuning in. As always, if you do enjoy the streams, you can support us by using a link for BonkBot. BonkBot is kind enough to sponsor our streams. Therefore, you can use the link. Obviously, it's going to give us a little bit of a kickback on commissions, but it will also keep the streams coming because we are only doing this for money and nothing else. So,
Jesus Christ,
with
man.
all that being said,
Fucking hell.
let's get into the things. So BTC, obviously we made a new all-time high basically towards the end of the last week, which I think was pretty interesting, especially considering the fact that we had quite a weakness in the S&P. Trump announced 50% tariffs on the European Union. So, the stocks, we had basically this kind of a risk of week. Last week, the stock sold off, gold did pretty well. The bonds kind of died because there was this bond auction. No one cares about the US bonds anymore. But the kind of a risk on risk of rotation last week was basically pretty clearly present by weaker stocks and stronger gold. Also, some of the safe haven assets like yen and Swiss franc rallied, I think, as well. So, which makes new all-time high for Bitcoin pretty interesting, because once again we are getting this decorrelation basically between the risk on assets, which is pretty cool to see. It's obviously when if the stocks are going to recover, I would expect Bitcoin to do well as well. So seeing this kind of divergence is basically the same thing that we had at the end of, like, throughout the March and basically April, when the things are, when the stocks market took a hit, but the crypto or BTC, held quite well. It's pretty interesting. I think, BTC overall, I think this is pretty funny, is that like you have this like a institutional, obviously, buying pressure and all of these things, but on the other hand, it's a, you have this guy on hyperliquid now, just slinging, billions of dollars in perps, which might also kind of affect price in the short term. So this is truly this like a left curve, right curve meme. With this price action, I feel like we pulled back in on Friday. I don't know. I feel like at this point, I personally feel like we should find a bottom somewhere around here, if this is truly going to be like a move that is going to take price to 120 whatever extension this is going to have. Obviously you don't want to see that classic kind of a deviation type of situation when market starts to lose, like this 100, like the last kind of the consolidation basically, which we had during the kind of mid-May, those 10 days when price went basically sideways. I think that you want to kind of see that to hold and support the price, if this has any kind of legs up, and this is not just a one big disappointing event of false break of the highs and then move to the other way around. So yeah, it's hard to say. Obviously, I think this is very kind of interesting because Bitcoin at this point has been rallying for quite a while. Like we have been in an uptrend basically since FTX blew up. Obviously sometimes it was faster, sometimes not, but overall I would say this has been pretty consistently trending to the upside for last 2.5 years. So So yeah, it's probably one of the hardest places to make kind of any kind of price predictions is all-time highs. I would guess that there are kind of I don't know. I maybe have like both reasons to be bullish and bearish here. But I don't think that I want to make any kind of like big predictions because not generally how I trade, how I really care about uh the market anyway. So yeah, obviously if you are holding spot, I think that this is still a good place to be long because we usually like you see when you revisit like the highs so quickly, like this obviously took like 4 months from the January all-time highs. It's usually a good sign, but you really want to see price to hold here. Like if you look at like 2021 top basically, where we kind of topped in April and then revisited the highs like 6 months later. You see basically this kind of a price action where market makes a new all-time high and just like can't hold it. uh in which case I think that's kind of a opens door for like a bigger corrections. But at the same time, there are no signs of weakness, I would say, yet on like a bigger time frames at least. So it's still probably less hurtful to treat this as a trend rather than trying to find the top, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're gonna have a weekly close today, which is gonna be highest ever. Or I mean, I don't assume we would, much would change in the next whatever 6 hours, or how much is it left until weekly close. So that alone is obviously net bullish. I think monthly. I know you don't like the time frame, but monthly, it's gonna be highest ever. Still 6 days to go. Weekly highest ever. Daily, we went down 2%.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting because since I guess a bunch of the time today will be spent around this hyper liquid crackhead, but he basically closed his long. He had like 1.1 billion or 1.2 billion, which is actually insane, right? Like to fucking say
Yeah.
1.2 billion long, and he closed it on Sunday. He closed it earlier today, or like yesterday at night, meaning during the weekend, right? And he barely moved the price, so it makes you think like, man, who is who is buying? Like, or I don't know, just something is weird. Like, I would never think you can exit just 1.2
Yeah.
billion dollars at night on the weekend without even the price even flinching. It quite literally did not move.
Yeah.
Maybe 1%.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think that it goes down to the lot of the kind of the spot premium between Binance and perhaps and spot, at least still being kind of negative. Like there is a lot of demand overall in spot, like, and you can use something like as simple as funding for this as well. Like funding is very low still. It's not negative, but it's not like elevated too much. So yeah, I think this is like a and I've been saying this on the pricing, like this is looking pretty healthy in terms of like a uptrend. And yeah, and you don't even have these like it's a quite forgiving move, which I hate personally because obviously I like when you trade in a trends, like you obviously it's very crowded in either way, so you kind of want to be entering the market when at least you see some people puking. But like this move, like when we made the first leg up basically, like at the towards the end of the April, we didn't really have any of these like a big long liquidation events on the way up. And even last week when we spoke, I think the price was around 103K or something like that, and I was mentioning that I would really like to see this kind of a dip underneath the 100K, kind of the scared the hose type of situation, where you just get basically a bunch of liquidation, some people kind of blowing up. That's when you can buy with like a much more confidence, but it just didn't happen. So yeah, that's this for me, to be quite honest and open, like is one of the most kind of a pain in the ass price action to trade basically, because market is just going up and it's just like not giving you this kind of a more, I would say, like a reasonable entry on the pullback without just trying to basically just stop blast and hope for the best, which pays off in this case. But from kind of my experience, oftentimes you just get um caught, like the second you just be like, okay, fuck it, this thing is not going down, I'm just going to buy, is exactly the moment when it's actually going to go down. But yeah, so far this has been very kind of strong for me for the last week. Like I said, I would like to see this consolidation to hold, which led to the new highs. It's pretty kind of similar to the 2021 situation, when basically we kind of, when we made the new all-time highs at October, November, we went sideways for a couple of days, made a new push to the upside, and when once we lost it, it's market really started to sell off quite aggressively, and like this move was super fast. It's from like, it took like a month, and you have these like a very quick rallies basically, which usually on the way down do not provide much of a support. So it does feel like this is something that and you can see this on the price action from like a November, like the election rally basically, right? Like when after the elections, like we went to this like a big range, but when market actually started to move lower, we filled that pretty quickly. We had these like a big down days basically at the like end of February, and then some more as well. It's just simply because you don't have much of a support in these like a very quick legs up. So yeah, I obviously, like, I think if we would start to lose this 100K level, you would get a quick move back down to like 95, and then you need to hold there otherwise you could go back all the way down to like 85 or something like that. So, but I'm obviously not trying to be this person. Like, I know people on CT love to do it and just like yell the targets, and be in very kind of convinced that something is going to happen based on fucking technical analysis or something, right? So I don't think there's much of a need to that. For me personally, I still feel like we are in an uptrend, like Bitcoin. um all things considered, that has been kind of going on in the world and everything, it's been probably the best performer. When you like, it has been the best performer when like, I know people like argue if this is safe haven or whatever it is, but like it was always closest to being just a risk market, like Nasdaq on crack. So yeah, it's performed extremely well. So there isn't, I don't see, and like obviously we see all these like institution catching up, and sailors buying billions still, and like it's obvious, like a lot of these things like can be like in hindsight like top, or like you can say that all these institutions buying it's going to be the top, but it doesn't mean that this thing can fucking go another you know 20% higher or something like that, and just trying to just catch the top. I don't think that they make much kind of sense. So yeah, for me, it's still an uptrend. I, based on some of the stuff that I think I posted on Twitter as well, some like simple stuff. I would say that I would like to be buying at dips, but I also would like to see some like people puking liquidation event type of situation, or at least something where I would have like a better defined risk reward rather than trying to buy new leverage positions basically here. But it's been holding up quite a bit. Yeah, that's I would say probably my kind of take around all of that.
Yeah, I would be very surprised. I don't believe in the blow off tops anymore, really, especially for Bitcoin. I do believe in blow off tops with altcoins, which we can look at in a second. But even if if this was to be, which would be fucking hilarious, man. I would, in hindsight, that would be the most obnoxious post on Twitter. But if, as you mentioned, if it was to play out like 2021, with the like double toppy thingy. I don't think it's surprising that we decoupled. We had Sailor. I'll try to be very quick. Sailor buying billions, ETFs buying billions. Just like you have James, whatever his name is, this guy from Twitter, Craighead. Quite literally, in some of these days, as there wasn't that much happening for me, I was just waiting for Trump trade, so I was just watching this guy basically execute. And man, he was just finger blasting 20 million per second, like brr, and he would like move Bitcoin $500. So he would just basically, some of these intraday moves was literally him, and it was fun to watch. But now he's short. I don't think that really matters much. Tomorrow is a holiday, and there's the thing that is in the very short term for me a little sus is the Bitcoin conference. That is 27th, which is just on Tuesday. So tomorrow is Memorial Day, holiday, and the first, like, I guess, day at work, back at work for Americans would be first day of conference. There's obviously JD Vance and Trump speaking, Bailey guy, just the usual. All these people who've been screaming, big news tomorrow, open mouth, just all the obnoxious fucks. So all of them are speaking there.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of expectations for some headlines. So, and just historically, some of these conferences have caused some sort of like short term. Like last year, remember there was a Trump speaking actually, the Bitcoin strategic reserve thing. Like, of course, that never happened, huh? But
yeah, no, I mean it's interesting because I think we truly have like I think I could like come up with like a good reason for this to be a top, but I also could kind of come up with a good reason for this to just continue and go higher. Like, and for me, like truly for me, like the reason for this to go higher is probably more like more technical, quote unquote. Like I can convince myself it makes more sense, obviously. This kind of relative strength against stocks has been super obvious, and all the indicators that I'm looking at, like I said, the funding rates. I look at a bunch of stuff in options, which also wasn't too extended yet. We had like a spot buyers still present, on all of these dips, all of these sideways areas, which you often do not see at the tops as well. So yeah, for me, like I wouldn't be surprised if I would see Bitcoin trading at 120 whatever thousand, but obviously at the same time we have a lot of like quote unquote top signals with the US and some of these other institutions basically piling in as well. But yeah, from like what I see, I still am leaning more towards this bullish side. I think that the trend overall is strong, and at the end of the day, like I look at the price action, and I just don't really feel like trying to scream this is the top on Twitter and hope that there is a chance I will be correct, and then I can use the pin tweet, which I will have for like 5 years on my web profile.
and
that
these
I call
accounts
the
are the
top.
best.
Yeah.
I called the top
Yeah.
in 1973.
Yeah. So that type of situation. But obviously, if we would, like I said, if you would lose this 100K level, and it would start to look really the deviation graph and all of that, then I would be most likely more bearish here. But still, as simple as that on daily time frame, this thing is making higher highs, higher lows. We all make fun of the technical analysis and the trends, and then you don't want to be that last fucking moron that actually goes against it when you have this like a cleanest conditions, right? Like we are basically retesting now the previous kind of highs and then all of this support, right? So I don't know. I would just more still leaning towards this thing to continue, but obviously same as like I said last week, I would just love to see some leverage flush, at least to some extent, to get me like a good leverage entry.
Yeah, one thing that stands out to
Yeah.
me is annualized basis is some of the lowest it's been in years.
Yeah,
Or,
which
sorry,
is
not
also
support.
like indicate. I think I posted that as well. Like this, that's also an indicator of this being very healthy.
Yeah. Basically, no sign of froth. Is what this is kind of saying.
Yeah. So, and
But
I think even like CME
yes,
open
go ahead.
interest also is not at like all-time high, if I'm not mistaken. So,
No, it's very low.
sorry, what we wanted to say.
I actually forgot. It's fine. Brain fog after
Yeah,
a
so
run.
like CMEOI, still not at the highs, quite significantly actually as well. So, I don't think it's looking still too bad, but obviously intra-week, a lot of things can happen. Someone asked about the M2 money supply. I think that's a little bit of a meme, in a sense,
Oh, the
or
3-month delay
you know.
chart.
Yeah. Like I know a lot of people, like I saw a lot of people posting that like a daily money supply thingy, but it's not like a real thing, right? Like it's not released every month or something. And yeah, I don't know. Like I know that there's like a big cult around that. I wouldn't. I spoke with like a smarter people, and they said it's a meme, so I would probably stick to that. But yeah, not something that I look at.
I mean, I know
Um,
the charts like follow each other with few months delay. That is that a some sort of correlation causation. I don't think it's that black and white. Oh, the charts go along. Is that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
now I
don't know.
remember.
Not something that I use, but I know that there is a little bit of a skepticism, which is obviously healthy. But yeah. So yeah, that's I think BTC. We can obviously talk about the hyperliquid with whale guy, which has been a very popular topic over the last few days. I'm going to be quite fair, although I tried to be a good KOL this week. I got bored of it around Thursday, so I haven't really been much on Twitter. So I don't actually know like he's short now, right?
Yes, I have his. How do you call it? I don't know. This is like hyper dash, whatever tracker
Yeah.
situation. Has $1 billion short with liquidation price
So he was he
2%
was
higher. Like what the fuck, man.
so he was long and he lost
So
money on that, and then
he took an L on the long. He basically longed at the top, closed at the bottom, and shorted even lower. It's just like
that's
insane.
that's my quant. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously people love this shit.
He's
I
currently
don't know.
25x leveraged long. Sorry, short.
I cannot like see like one logical reason to do this publicly. It's like yeah, it's I don't know. I probably like if maybe if you can or someone in the chat can like explain to me like what is like one single benefit you would do something like this.
Honestly, I think it's just severely retarded human being with a lot of money.
Yeah, I guess so because yeah, chasing cloud, but like with this type of money, you probably if you really need to chase the dopamine on Twitter, that's pretty sad thing I would say. But yeah,
Sure.
I saw that. I don't know. Like it seems like every once in a while, um, this kind of happens on Twitter. Obviously, this is probably the biggest size that I can recall. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people just love to do this for some reason. I think this is significant enough size for this to get like actively like especially why would you do this on like fucking hyperliquid when where everyone can see your position and especially your liquidation. It's probably the most retarded part for me on all of
But hey,
this.
man,
Like obviously like
Hyperliquid
if
itself went up like 30% while this guy became a public
yeah
face. So I've seen a
that's
lot of
true.
like
Hypers
I've seen a lot
uh,
of speculators saying that this is theme of Hyperliquid. Just I don't know,
yeah,
it's
that,
tough
that
to
would
say.
that would make sense. Like boosting like a uh is he like shilling a meme? Someone's saying
Yeah,
he's
he's
shilling
shilling
his
like a
meme coin.
fucking low cap, which makes no sense to me. Like even me and you
You
don't do
cannot
that shit.
you cannot like outweigh that. yeah, now this is like a super weird thing because like why would you do that in the first place with this type of money, and then like you probably like if you lose, I don't know.
Just Adam, don't read out the name of the shit. Let's not show that like.
But yeah, for like it's obviously pretty good marketing for hype for hyperliquid. At the end of the day, I think that would make a lot of sense. It's a valid point. Like being able to close a 1.2 billion position on a liquid weekend, on like during a weekend which is much less liquid and not. I haven't seen hyperliquid feed for BTC, but I would assume there is not like a gigavic somewhere or something like that.
Jesus Christ, man! He
Otherwise,
paid $1.5 million just to open and close that trade.
yeah, that's crazy.
Jesus fuck.
Crazy. But yeah, it's very hard for me. It's very hard for me to understand what would be like a reasoning to do something like public. But maybe I'm just like missing something, and obviously I'm not worth 75 figures, so probably a skill issue there. So cool, yeah. So let's talk about dude, let's talk about
Maybe
altcoins
just
maybe.
last
But
thing with Bitcoin.
yeah,
2 sentences promise. Sailor nav prim is gone down a lot, which I do suspect that starting the following week we will see a slowdown in buying of Sailor. That's all.
yeah. So altcoins.
If our favorite coin that
What
is,
do you have to what do you have to say about ETH?
I mean, ETH BTC is down 12% since us last stream, so I am opening champagne and
At this moment, I'm euphoric.
bottom.
To be quite fair, I think what is Solid doing? Yeah, Solid is doing pretty poorly. I think people like Sol has not been doing very well. I would start with that. Like, yeah.
So you wanna
I
do
don't know.
ETH
I
USD
felt-
or Sol USD or both?
I'm looking at Sol at the moment on my screen, but it's been just like struggling. We had this like range type of situation on lower time frames. I traded. I actually got long Sol last week, around Sunday, Monday, around 160. I ate some shit, but then when we broke above 186, I was really hoping this is going to run. Usually, Solana is running with Bitcoin, all of these things, but yeah, I just round trip bunch. I think I got out around 175. Yeah, I don't know, like it's a bit disappointing. People not sure like if Sol really had this moment last year, and it's just now going to, because like obviously one thing which can happen, it's kind of a classic disappointing scenario of crypto is that like these alts have like insane rallies, and then you have this just like a spiraling, underperformance when people really think it's going to start to catch up next and next. And I think we've been, like if obviously we are like a altcoin number one hater, but if there is a altcoin we kind of agreed that makes sense to long, was Sol. But yeah, I don't want to. At the same time, I don't kind of want to just basically see this like even today, like Sol is down 2.5%. ETH 0.5, Bitcoin basically 0.2. So I feel like Sol has been underperforming. It's not really getting. When is the ETF? October.
In like October-ish. I have a line here
Yeah.
which I assume is ETF related.
We have we have these futures. They are pretty liquid on CME still. I was actually watching some like TradFi stuff, like like CME itself, like they are kind of shilling those. But it seems like no one really cares that as well. So I don't know. I don't really love Solana here. I would probably just buy it like if Not sure. Like one thing which is pretty hard here is that usually, like in like a prior cycles, basically we would like Bitcoin would top now and would probably go sideways or just like chill for a bit, and altcoins would do like 5x, 10x, and everything would go crazy. But like it's just this is like a I think this is like a big change of which people just cannot have very hard time to adjust overall. Is that it's just like altcoins are just not really doing that well. So
Well, they're
it's
outliers,
tough.
right?
It's tough.
Outliers.
Yeah, obviously, like you have hype, which
Hardcore.
is probably the yeah, but even that corrected. It's Farcon is still looking pretty good. Farcon is still like testing, also making very kind of clean, higher highs, higher lows. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much of a
But
reason
looks
to
much better than
try to.
Sol, is the point.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And for hyperliquid, I think this kind of makes sense. Like it's getting a lot of traction, and even besides the guy, like the exchange, and obviously people love it because made a lot of money on it, and it's I think it's genuinely pretty good place to trade overall. So
And one of few coins that actually made a new all-time high, which I mean, how
yeah,
many are there? Bitcoin in hype, maybe? And I don't count,
yeah.
somebody in the chat will be, oh no, my 11,000 market cap coin just did. Of course, brother.
Yeah. So other than that, I don't know. I was looking at some of these coins before the stream, but nothing really. Even stuff like Sui, which was pretty
That got
strong,
hacked.
is kind of which got hacked. Is kind of lacking at the moment. So yeah, not much
I mean,
there.
it does
Not
kind
much
of feel
there.
like back to the usual RunnerXBT programming of Bitcoin dominance just ripping. And
What is Bitcoin dominance now?
it's almost at the highs again.
Yeah, 64%.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
obviously refrained from the post yet, but even others BTC is almost at the lows again, and I know people will be, oh, you have to remove USDT and USDC, but I went through some of these coins, like for example, just for the sake of example, so I don't just yap. If you look at like BetaChain, it basically made a new all-time low today. It's or a few percent away, and that's like a recent coin. That's not a. Or my point is, it went up and it's down another 50% in past 12 days, but it actually lines up just fine with when ETH BTC started going down again. But I mean, it's just the same sentence over and over again. You need ETH to be strong for altcoins to do well. That's always been the case. And almost always with Solana coins, you kind of needed Sol to be strong.
Yep. Makes sense. Cool. So yeah, covered Bitcoin and ETH. Obviously, I think coming to like next week, it's very hard to make some crazy predictions because obviously all-time high and all these different things happening. We are rolling into summer. Usually, you have summer like slowing down of volatility, which I wouldn't be surprised if we would just do like fuck all for the next 2-3 months, and we would just really go sideways because I think Bitcoin was pretty active in the last like if you look at Bitcoin like price action in this kind of trend, basically which kind of started in February 24 after the ETFs. We went into like this huge range, then we had a Trump rally, we once again started ranging. Like every time you have this like a crazy one-sided price action, market just starts to go really sideways. Obviously, it also can be a top once we, because like you don't need to have like a blow off top, but I think usually you see tops when market is really like when the trend is like they're going, and basically which we had in these last few weeks when you had these like big 5% days or whatever it is 5-10% days, then everyone is very very much put on one side. But it's interesting because like from like a sentiment point of view and everything, I think
Pretty
people
bad.
are in general like underexposed to BTC. So hard to say.
Yeah, nobody wants to hold Bitcoin. I mean, it's interesting. It's like a reverse unit bias thing, right? Like a lot of like people on, not on chain, but remember back in the days, you know, people trading on like Robinhood and Coinbase, they would be buying coins with the logic of, if it goes to $1, I'll have this much money. Like, which Lambo are you buying with Shiba and Luna Classic and whatnot? And I feel like Bitcoin is kind of the actual reverse of it. Like, why would I buy 0.003 Bitcoin?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But you know, it truly was the best trade, I would say, you know, in the last years, basically, even from like a investing point of view, at least. So cool. Do you guys have anything, any coins, anything you would like to get covered and you know mentioned and looking into?
It's a long weekend too, so tomorrow is
Yeah,
off.
tomorrow is a burger holiday,
Burger.
which
Oh man, I
which
had
means
a.
futures are closed actually. The CME futures are closed, so stocks are probably closed as well. So yeah. Someone mentioned Fartcoin on Twitter, sorry, on YouTube. For me, like I'm going to be very honest because Fartcoin is, you know, it's a new coin. It's traded on chain, so a lot of the stuff that I look at when I'm kind of getting biased, it's not really valid in these like new coins and coins that are on chain. You know, I wouldn't say that I have a much of a on chain edge. Besides, my DMs are opened if you want to give me insider info. But but yeah, it's you know like but rather has some of the you know moving averages and all of these things like these things. I think like if you want to do like a fucking technical analysis, like a very simple one, like moving averages and trends and support and resistance and trend lines and all of these things, like these are the markets you should be doing that because like everyone else is
Doing
doing
it.
it because like there's like no other thing you can do to be quite fair, right? Like you know there are like no data. It's you know like the volume is kind of all over the place on chain, you know, always on centralized exchanges. I don't even know like perps are, yeah, like it's just like not that much things to look at. Like for Bitcoin, you know, for example, like you have ETFs, you have options, you have CME markets, you have all these bunch of like different things which are going to you know affect prices. But like for these coins, like there's nothing, almost nothing, you know. But this is now quite popular. But yeah, doing like super simple technical analysis is just like working very well, and you can see this retest of those moving averages, right? Like ever since the market started to go up in April, basically, you have like perfect trend retest, right? So you know it's a super left curve thing to do, but it's one of those things which like if you know want to be long, it's probably your kind of a best risk to reward type of you know place to be long because obviously even though these things are very simple, there are still people who are way more retarded and they are just going to you know top blast on 100x leverage. So you are still you know taking at least some sort of like a you know calculated risk management into those trades. So yeah, I mean, as long as those like moving averages hold, and this is basically where the market structure kind of lows are as well at the same place, I wouldn't really try to like. I don't see a reason to just try to fade it. Basically, you know, obviously this is a fifth retest of the moving averages. It's like usually you want to see like these things. Like usually the trends are kind of like a you know like very slow these kind of like slow higher highs, higher lows, and then you have these like crazy expansions, right? Like the price action we saw on BTC where you have like a 5% days or something like this, right? Like you want to see those like moves basically very far from the moving averages, which we didn't have here. So is it going to happen? I don't know, but as the things are right now, I think you're just using simple stuff, hoping that this is really going to have this like a blow off, like basically what we had in the beginning, or like towards the beginning of this year, right? Like when the January price action, like when this things goes from like a plus like 2x or something, basically.
The thing is
So
with
yeah,
these,
let's say
I don't think it's even so much like about entry that is brain dead. You just use DA and like round numbers, like $1 will
yeah,
be fucking contested. DA, like all of it lines up. The thing is, how do you manage the moment it goes against you, right? I think a lot of people trading these, they just buy, and what happens, let's say it goes
yeah,
lower, and they just hold and they're like, so is Fartcoin ever gonna go up again, or whatever coin, right? So it's not even where to buy is the easiest question. I think like where are you wrong? I think it's more the question here. If
yeah,
I'm buying the fifth retest of the MAs, like where is my invalidation here? Or am I simply
yeah.
martingaling as per usual and just until I'm eventually right? Like,
But it should be like if you use like a simple entry like this, the exit should also be as kind of simple. Be like, okay, if we're gonna have a daily close underneath those averages, I want to be getting out, right? Obviously, like for example, me like when like this is what I would like to enter on this kind of a premise of these moving averages being actually broken and it's all over, and these are the type of trades which I like to take, but obviously the downside of that is that it didn't happen basically ever since we have this like a picture perfect trend. So sometimes I yeah, it's just really as easy as this. In crypto it tends to be the case sometimes, but yeah,
and I
if
would
you
highly
if you are looking
recommend
for
if
it.
you're into trading some of these. Like for example, I've spent my last entire month I traded one coin only, which was Trump. Like if you like Fartcoin, just you should like day trade and you'll kind of see how it trades. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I think Adam, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but like you'll
And
get a feel for it.
Fartcoin is actually a good example for this, I think, because it's pretty like liquid and volatile. So like you will get, it moves
You'll
a
get
lot.
good at it. So but I would
Yeah,
say if you like Fartcoin, just trade that. Like you don't need to chase fucking million things. I had a lot of
yeah,
fun with Trump coin. I wanna do a quick victory lap, but mostly like, people ask like, "Oh, so great analysis. Do you actually trade?" I mean, I think this was the one of the easiest trades I've seen in a very long time. Actually, it is Adam. Like it is literally like Shibarium trade we took, or all those.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dinner happened. Goodbye.
And
Down
sort of.
25%.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's that
yeah, yeah.
simple. It was. I mean, if the thesis takes 10 seconds to explain, if you don't get it, good luck in trading. But
No, it was like I was kind of shaking. I obviously I saw some of your victory laps. Hard to miss on Twitter, but yeah, it was very obvious, and I was even like like why I wasn't paying that much attention. I was actually last week trading bonds, which I got mentioned in the Twitter comments, but yeah, it is like, and these trades are pretty rare, at
yeah,
least like nowadays, and
unfortunately.
I feel like all you need is like Bitcoin just not having like insanely trend day at the time, but even like Bitcoin was pretty trending, right, when
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
top
Trump. I
happened.
think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
easiest is to look at Trump compared to Bitcoin, and yeah, actually perfect
yeah.
picture,
No,
perfect lower highs, and just goodbye.
but yeah, this is really a good type of trade where you're just like wait for the event, and these like like crypto, if anything, like there is a very high chance these are going to be just sell the news, especially these like lower ones, um where it's really good, because like always like bigger type of events, like when you have like a news for BTC or ETH, it's like it gets crowded, but I feel like for altcoins a lot of people still have this like belief that like Trump is truly going to go 10x here,
Yeah, I mean, I've
and
seen even
uh,
Unsem post like being bullish Trump. I'm like, dude, you fucking
yeah,
should
yeah,
stop
yeah.
eating your own cum.
Um, so you recommend day trading these smaller coins versus swing trading? Well, I would say that like if you want to be actively trading, or in general, I feel like what Brander is doing a lot is just like usually picking like one coin which has some sort of like a fundamental news,
Catalyst, yeah.
uh, or like obviously it's pretty rare these days, like we said, but like if you want to be trading more actively, I would definitely recommend day trading, especially altcoins, because like they have like these windows of outperformance are kind of not given. Like like you have, like, if you look at coin, like if you look at like Sui, for example, right? Like it did really well a couple of weeks ago. Everyone was talking about that. Then it got hacked. It's just going to shit basically.
That was probably good to
So
day trade,
usually,
If
yeah,
I did
like
not have Trump, I would have
it,
traded.
it's really like, I think altcoins are truly, and it's more and more like this. It's just like penny stocks, where you basically have just this like a flavor of the week, flavor of the month type of coins. You want to be trading these here and there, and then just going into the next thing, rather than yeah, I don't know, like obviously, like probably don't, like I never, like I don't know when I was like last time I held like spot position in any altcoin. It's been many years, so that's completely like out of the question for me at least, and I know for you as well.
Oh yeah,
But
zero chance.
but even for me, like I hold trades for a little bit longer now, but I cannot like sleep if I, because like the correlation is really high in altcoins still. So usually when when Sol is looking good, usually ETH is looking good as well. Fartcoin is gonna look as well. Hype is going to look as well. And I see a lot of this on CT actually, where people are like fully filled on everything type of post, and you see this like a screenshot of like 11 long positions taken at like same time, and I'm like, dude, it's like obviously it's not all the same. Like some things are going to outperform the others, but at the same time, it's fucking the same thing, right? Like it's the correlation is very very high. So yeah, I cannot do this. Like I don't think it's like a sane thing to do. So even if you want to be swing trading and holding things for longer, obviously people more lean towards long side in crypto. So you just want to kind of just be very selective basically on what you are trading, right? Like just really trying to hold these like a bigger runners. I would say that like both Hype and Fartcoin uh have this, it's obviously a little bit silly, but like a fundamental quote unquote reasoning to go up. uh, Obviously, I think Hyperliquid is getting just more and more share when it comes to centralized exchanges, and Fartcoin is became this like a very, I would say, very solid meme, which also went outside of the crypto circles, and it's kind of recognized now in TradFi and getting a lot of like headlines in TradFi as well. So it's not just like TA, let's say, right? So so yeah,
I
it's
actually
it's it's a
don't remember
different
the
thing.
last time I only traded like DA, just a level hit. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna buy $1 million
yeah. No,
worth of this.
that's definitely a tricky, very tricky thing to do in alts, because they are still very correlated, and like people like, and I think the most kind of dangerous situation here is that when you have like shit is actually going down, which is like 90% of these coins, and people look at like you mentioned, like Beta Chain or some of these other things, right? And it's just like goes down, and
Booga booga.
people are like, oh, it's going to, like, now like Beta Chain on the daily chart, right? Like we had this rally and we basically like retraced this, and people are like, oh, this is back into support, I'm just going to buy this because there is this like a technical setup here. But like, is there like any single reason that it's gonna go, like why, like there's like no reason for this to go up. Obviously it can go
Maybe
up,
team
like
has the
anything can
unlock soon,
happen.
So they'll.
Yeah, but like I think the crypto is extremely like based on these like a quote unquote narratives and like attentions, where yeah, it's just like I don't think you can just like spray into every single thing and just kind of hope for the best, especially if you are like leverage trading. So, yep.
But that's the problem. What I see a lot of people do,
Yep.
and I've seen a lot of people this cycle lose a lot of money because they made a lot of money on ETH. Let's say in previous cycles, and they basically made it their dogma that that's what's gonna happen next. It's gonna run again, and I think it's
Yeah.
super super dangerous. I mean, we all can see it this cycle that there's literally no guarantee in anything. I'm not gonna even say Bitcoin because people are gonna call me Bitcoin Maxi again. But I
Yep.
mean, VCs are
Oh,
still up like 20x on Beta Chain, so go figure.
yeah, yeah. Which is, obviously there's like a whole new or like a whole new level of issue where basically these coins are kind of doomed to fail and all of these things, right? Which, surprise, surprise, is not the case for either hype or fart coin, basically. So, you can just go kind of figure basically that that's kind of a characteristic that you probably want to see with something that, is just more likely to go up, right?
So yeah, tomorrow holiday, then Bitcoin conference. I would be on the lookout for news trades if that's what you're into. So not Adam, and macro-wise, I think it's pretty calm. There should be FOMC in like a couple of weeks. And also
Yep.
June 1st should be start of the tariff. So, maybe they do a pause again or some headlines. I don't know. It's so tiring for me to even keep track of
Mm.
Trump. It's so annoying.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. Obviously, I will just kind of delve a little bit into the boomer TradFi market. Um, the 50% tariff on the EU is pretty crazy, or like a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. At least so far, we didn't see like an insane nuke, right? Like even the S&P kind of got bought back a little bit on Friday afternoon. VIX, didn't really. It went up like 20%, but like not that crazy. So far, obviously, this is like at least what I hope for is that all of this stuff is priced in now. It's been a while, so
Mm-hmm.
we're just not going to get another like insanely traumatizing event where this is going to just go to like insane prices. But we will see. We'll see. Cool. Thank you guys for tuning in. So if you like the streams, make sure to check out BonkBot. I'm sending a link to description on Twitter and YouTube. It will help us. Obviously, it will keep the streams going. And with all of that being said, we will catch you next week.
Thank you and have a good rest of your weekend.